Here's my full review of Do Not Age's Creatine Monohydrate, the best creatine I've ever used.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What's up, Freccero fam? Welcome back to my channel where I'd like to explore everything that life has to offer. And of course, a huge part of this channel is fitness, health, supplementation, and creatine. Being more specific, Creatine Monohydrate is one of the most popular fitness supplements in the entire world. And I've tried a bunch of different products from a bunch of different companies, and I gotta say, this one is the best. This is Do Not Age's Creatine Monohydrate. Now, I do want to stress, like I've said in every one of my videos, I am not a doctor. I'm not a licensed doctor, and I never pretend to be one in every one of my videos. Always consult with a licensed professional before you add any new supplement into your diet and into your regimen. Now, before I get into this specific creatine, let's talk about the benefits. So just skimming through super quick, as you can see right here, creatine is a natural supplement used to boost athletic performance. It is not only safe, but one of the world's most popular and effective supplements for building muscle and strength. So I'm just gonna go through this super quick. You know, I hate videos that ramble on way too long. I like getting right to the point. It helps muscle cells produce more energy, supports many other functions in muscles, improves high-intensity exercise performance, speeds muscle growth, may help with Parkinson's disease, may fight other neurological diseases, may lower blood sugar levels and fight diabetes, can improve brain function, may reduce fatigue and tiredness, and lastly, safe and easy to use. In addition, and remember, I'm just kind of skimming the surface here, creatine, of course, is mainly used for physical performance, which I'll talk about in a second, but new research indicates that creatine is also important to brain function, affecting mood and cognition. Early trials suggest creatine supplementation can improve stress resilience, depression, and brain functions such as memory. So when it comes to creatine, originally it was mainly used for just fitness athletes, people in the gym, bodybuilders. It was a bit of a joke. You know, a lot of people say like, oh, protein or something like that. Kind of similar when it comes to this, where people are like, oh, creatine. Reminds me a lot of that old school like YouTube video, My New Haircut, and it goes, not now, chief. I'm in the effing zone. The term creatine was kind of mainly used just among bodybuilders and fitness athletes, as it's amazing for physical performance in general. Whether you are a marathon runner, whether you do parkour like myself, if you do martial arts, if you're a bodybuilder, if you're lifting weights, if you mainly do high intensity interval training, if you mainly do weightlifting and powerlifting, regardless of what you do when it comes to physical activity, creatine is massively important for that. I've been taking creatine for years, and like I said, I've tried numerous different versions of it. And I gotta say, creatine is unbelievably vital and healthy to use. And in addition, and this is a big one, is the mental benefits. I did notice when I first started taking it in college, and I'm trying to think of a way to word this the best way, I felt like I could focus better. I felt like I was more alert. I just felt like I was more in it, so to speak. And I noticed some distinct mental benefits when taking it. I just didn't think anything of it. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm working out more, so maybe it's like a side effect of working out. And of course, there's been a lot of new research. I mean, if you think about it, if you're taking something that improves, like say, physical performance and everything, it does make some sense that there could be, depending on the supplement, some mental benefits, cognitive improvement, and reducing cognitive decline. In addition, there have been some reports to state that it can be neuroprotective, meaning it can protect against Alzheimer's and other kind of neurodegenerative diseases, which is massive. So not even just for the physical benefits, which used to be kind of like the running joke, like creatine. You can also take this, and I've heard of other people who do, just for the pure cognitive and mental benefits. The first time I ever heard about this was actually from Tim Ferriss, who stated in his book, 4 Hour Body, that you should take creatine, not even just if you're a powerlifter or a marathon runner or whatever, but just for the mental benefits. Another big one that really shocked me, that was, for lack of better phrase, mind-blowing, is on the podcast with Dr. Andrew Huberman and Tony Hawk. He mentioned how people who had 10 grams of creatine after having a TBI or traumatic brain injury recovered significantly faster than those who didn't.
For the TBI thing, I just want to make sure I mention this because a lot of skateboarders hit their head. The data on creatine monohydrate is most, people talk about creatine, for muscle building. And yes, 5 grams of creatine monohydrate will bring the water into your muscles. You'll be instantly, or, within a few days, you'll be stronger. But most of the data on creatine is clinical data, or our clinical data rather. And it turns out that for someone who's about 180 pounds or so, taking 10 grams of creatine per day has been shown to offset a lot of the cognitive effects of TBI. It's a known cognitive enhancer.
Pretty wild. Now, of course, like I mentioned, creatine boosts a lot of things when it comes to endurance, building muscle size, helping with recovery. And I think a lot of people will just think of it like I used to, oh, well, it's just for physical performance. It's just for athletes. But it's pretty crazy to think that, let's say if you do get a TBI, taking creatine every day can actually significantly speed up that recovery process. And as a result, that's why for me personally, I take creatine every day. I take 10 grams of creatine, not just 5, especially after hearing that study, because of all the benefits. Now, when it comes to creatine monohydrate, the standard dose is 5 grams. That's the standard kind of along the line. Sometimes people have talked about doing a loading phase. I personally don't. I don't think you need to do a loading phase. In case you don't know, loading phase for creatine, and I used to do this, I don't anymore, is when you typically would take a lot of it, let's say the first 5 days of taking it, and then kind of taper off. I don't do the loading phase anymore. I just take it every day. And in addition, like I said, I do take 10 grams, not just 5. I used to take 5. And the first time I heard about taking 10 grams of creatine monohydrate, I actually heard it on TikTok. And I was like, all right, it's TikTok. Let's be honest. It's like people dancing. It's gotten different now. I feel like you can learn actually some decent things on TikTok, but you have to take it with a grain of salt, which, by the way, why is it a grain of salt? Why not like a grain of pepper? I don't know if there's like a reason behind that. But anyway, if you think about it, it is the internet. So you do have to take it with a grain of salt. But I heard of one bodybuilder saying, yeah, I take 10 grams now as opposed to 5. I've noticed significant benefits. And I was like, oh, interesting. I never really thought about doubling up on my creatine dosage. And then I heard this again from another bodybuilder. And I'm like, okay, this is now I'm hearing this a lot more. And then I heard about that study and that Andrew Huberman, Tony Hawk podcast, where they specifically used 10 grams of creatine, not 5. And I'm like, all right, well, if they use that in that study and they notice that much of a benefit, that's definitely saying something. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna take 10 as opposed to 5. I immediately noticed all the benefits of creatine were significantly increased. Now, of course, it's always important to look at both sides. Maybe some of it was the placebo effect. Really tough to say. But I'm telling you, at the end of the day, I'm not looking back. I now take 10 grams of creatine monohydrate every single time before I work out. I take it every day as well, whether I'm working out or not. Now, that being said, let's get specifically into the Do Not Age Creatine Monohydrate. Now, full disclosure, as I'm always transparent on my videos, I am sponsored by Do Not Age. However, and I want to stress this, I reached out to them. They did not reach out to me. I just heard Do Not Age being recommended by tons of scientists and doctors who are billions of times smarter than me, being like, oh, like Do Not Age is a very reputable company. They're more of an organization that just tries to push the barriers of anti-aging supplements and everything and create high quality pure supplements that's not just in it for a profit. They donate to a lot of really good studies as well. And as you can imagine, with me being so big into supplementation, I was like, all right, I really want to work with this company. So I just want to say that as a side note. And like I said in every video, I'm always honest and transparent. But yeah, I reached out to them being like, I really want to work with you because I know how good your supplements are. And on that note, this is a slide deck I actually got from them because I was like, hey, can you send me more information? Like, I want to make sure I have the exact information about this. The first thing is this is 99% pure. There's a lot of companies out there that make creatine. You can go on Amazon and find tons of creatine powders. How pure they are can be very questionable, which is why I like this one the best by far. And I've noticed the biggest benefits by taking this one. In addition, here's like a mini recap of creatine and all the benefits. And then lastly, one thing I want to show you on the slide deck, because some of it's kind of random stuff in terms of here, if I look at like intelligence and memory tests, for example, is the price. So 1 month of this, if you take 10 grams a day, which is what I do, is $25. 1 year is $250. I'm not gonna lie, I don't think you need 20 grams a day. I have to be honest, I don't think you need that at all. But 1 year is $250. Now, if you look at most creatine supplements, I will say, just be transparent on this video. I don't like to hide anything. This is a little pricier. However, I choose this one over the other ones without question. One, I've noticed distinctly way more benefits from this one than other supplements out there. So I'd much rather spend a little bit more money and get way more benefits because sometimes, especially on Amazon, you never know. There was some study where they tested out a bunch of different supplements on Amazon. 70% of supplements on Amazon, statistically speaking, don't even contain the product that they say they contain. So you then may wonder, well, what's actually in them? I'm tough to say. I don't know, right? Tough to say exactly. So that's why I can really trust this, and that's why I love it. In addition, I feel like the $25 a month is, I think, a decent standard, at least to me, is a decent standard for a very high quality creatine. For example, one creatine I've already tried out, which I did like, was Thorne's creatine. And I'm a huge fan of the company Thorne. I think they make amazing products. I have no affiliation with them, by the way. Just want to say that as a side note. But when you look at this creatine versus Thorne's creatine, not only is this one purer and higher quality, but it's also cheaper. So even though, yeah, this compared to, like, say, a low quality creatine, yeah, it makes sense. This is gonna be higher quality, cost a little bit more. But when you look at this versus another really decent creatine, gotta give them credit where credit's due. Thorne has a great creatine. This one is still cheaper and higher quality. Overall, like I said, I've been taking creatine for years. I've noticed a distinct benefit in terms of physical and mental performance. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of benefits to creatine. And it's kind of cool that now, especially at this time of this video, there's been a lot more research showing the mental benefits, especially for neurological decline and for neuroprotection in general. And like I said, when it comes to all the creatines I've tried throughout the years, this is by far my favorite. I'm going to be taking this pretty much every day forever, for the rest of my life, right? To be honest, when it comes to, like, say, me, whether I'm doing parkour or doing acrobatics, doing martial arts, as I get older, maybe it will just be me going on some hardcore walks or hikes or something like that. But at the end of the day, creatine is absolutely vital for both physical and mental performance.